That was about it, man. And so, when I went back to school, his friends, Red, became my friends. We started sharing food, all kinds of stuff like that, and it was like pretty cool. And before you knew it, we were swapping food, but I would run out of my tacos. I love my tacos. I wanted my tacos, not just all that. It was okay at the beginning, but after a while, it's like, you kind of miss it. Your chorizo con huevo and that kind of stuff, right? So I went home and I told my people, you know what? I kind of told her a little white lie. I said, hey, you don't give me enough food to eat. I'm just a little skinny little guy. And, yeah, I was trying to get a little bit extra food so I could at least have a taco at some point, right? Well, you never say that to a Mexican mother, man, because they always try to fatten you up, man. Oh, yeah, you always got some aunt or somebody always pinching your cheeks and talking about how you're not chubby enough and this and that. So when I told her that, she was so happy, man. She asked me, how many tacos you want? Digo, ¿cuántos tacos quieres? I want 6 tacos. I could only eat 1, maybe 2 at the most. And so she went outside and bragged to all of her comadres que mi mijo se está comiendo 6 tacos. So I went with my mochila to school and the tacos inside and pan dulces and that. And then I told the kids, in the best way I could, little English than you, I made them understand something. This was my first business transaction. I told them, start today. A half a taco for a whole sandwich, take it or leave it. And all of a sudden, I was full of food. I had a bunch of food in my mochila, too much that I could consume. Now I had a dilemma. How am I going to get rid of this food? I took it home, because I thought, wow, I can keep it. But I didn't want my jefita, Mama, to know that I was doing what I was doing. So I found the perfect hiding place, man. Now you got to think like a little kid. To me, it was perfect. I went ahead and hid the food between the mattresses of my bed. So this way, I thought to myself, and it was perfectly logical to me. At the middle of the night, I could just go ahead and stick my hand underneath there, pull something out, and like a big surprise. Well, one morning I woke up, and I was in pain, man. I was in pain. My hijita comes in, turns on the light. ¿Qué pasó, mijo? ¿Qué tienes? What's wrong with you? This and that. She's concerned, and all of a sudden she notices that I'm full of ants. And she looks around and she follows the trail, right? In between the mattresses, she opens it up, and then she stands right there where the thing hits. Qué bonito. Well, I guess you knew what happened to my colita after that, right? But I learned my lesson. But that's cool, man. It was chaos, man. It was cool. I liked it. Because in that school, everybody was my friend. I was learning English. They were giving me piggyback rides. Bigger kids, they were some of the higher grades. It was all right, man. Loved the school. And Red was like my best friend. And he was learning a little Spanish from me, and I was learning English. And it was a pretty good exchange. Good memory. But being a migrant, we had to move. And so we did. Now we went to another school. And it was predominantly Latino, man. A lot of Mexicanos right there, about 90-some% Mexicano. And when I came home from school, I told my jefita, all excited, this school is like Mexico. Everybody speaks Spanish, and everybody's okay, and they look like me. We eat the same food. It was just like being in Mexico. In fact, for a while, I wasn't sure. And she goes, qué bueno, mijo. I'm glad you liked it, she told me in Spanish. But I said, I learned some things, and I was like out of breath because I just wanted to tell her with excitement what I had learned. So she patiently listened to me, and my dad's like listening there in the corner. And I told my jefita, well, I learned that who my real papa is. She goes, okay, yeah, I told her that I found out who my real daddy was. And she looked at me kind of perplexed, right? And she said, well, who's your real daddy? ¿Quién es tu papá verdadero? And I told her, George Washington. He has a hairdo, man. And I told her, he's my real papa. And she looked at me, realizing the confusion, because she understood. Because she said to me, no, mijo, tu papá no es George Washington. Tu papá está aplastado ya. Oh, okay. told her, I learned something else, that they don't call me Willie, they call me other names también. There's another name. Oh, well, tell me what the other name is. I said, yeah, it's a cool name because everybody laughs. They call me Wetback. Now, she didn't laugh, and that kind of confused me because all the other kids that were using it were laughing, and she very delicately and very sternly, along with my dad, explained to me that that was a derogatory term. It was not right, and not to hang out with those kids because it had a bad meaning. And I didn't know what she meant. I mean, I understood that it was not right, but I didn't know what was not right about it. And I didn't know why I couldn't hang out with those kids because they looked like me, we talked the same language. I didn't realize that because I was from Mexico. That made a difference. Because I didn't know the difference, I didn't see a difference. That was my first experience with racism and discrimination. Something I didn't learn in the school where there was all white kids. I learned it from my own gente. And some of that never changed as I grew up. Because a lot of the confrontations, in fact almost all of the confrontations that I had in the future with my own raza, because I happened to live in that part of town, on that side of the tracks, on this corner, that's what it was. I understood it later, obviously, but as a little kid, it just didn't make any sense. But nevertheless, I lived my life. From there, we went to live by a river. As migrants, sometimes you don't have an opportunity to stay in one place for a year or two. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month. It depends on what you're doing, what kind of harvest you're involved in. And so to me, this was a very natural thing to do. We went to live by a river because we lived in our car at times, the station wagon. We carried all our stuff. Obviously, we couldn't carry furniture and things of that nature, but just the basic necessities. My jefita would cook food outside the station wagon. She would put a sábana, a bed sheet from the cart to the limbs of a tree. Other people's would be situated at a distance, close enough to where we can congregate, sing a song if somebody brought a guitar. Mom would cook some food. She'd sweep with a half a broom and clean the area. It became our little portal, an area like a patio. My dad would catch catfish in the river. And all this was an experience that was very natural to me. The only thing I didn't like was when my mom was bathing me in the river because the water was cold. The reason I didn't want her to bathe me in the river wasn't just because of the cold water, it was because my homies knew me really well, and I had a reputation for being a tough little kid. We used to box and teach each other how to fight and defend ourselves. We'd wrap some garras around our fists and go into a boxing session. We would tie them up with tape, and we would just punch away. And I had this reputation for having an unending supply of energy. And I wasn't like beating up everybody, but I wouldn't stop, man. I just wouldn't stop. I would not quit for nothing. So I had this reputation, and I wanted to live up to it. But it was embarrassing when my mom would take me down to the river to bathe me, because my mom would take me in my little chonies. She would make my own clothes, and my own clothes were made out of Mexican mothers. You got to realize they like to make things out of bright colors. So she'd tear up a bag that she would use to make tortillas of flour, harina la piña, I remember the name. She'd wash it, she'd clean it, take it apart, and make clothes for me. And there I go with these bright colors to the river and my little rainbow chonies on. And my homies are looking at me, and I'm covering up, hoping that nobody would see me with the towel. I get into the river, I hand the towel to my mom. And then Mexican mothers, man, they like to keep you clean. We were poor, man.